Humanity Departed in Silence, Part 1. The emergency session bell echoed through the vast chambers of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zalani Empire rushed through the crystalline corridors, his forearms clutching data tablets that trembled with each hurried step. The news had spread like wildfire across 17 star systems in less than 6 hours. Humanity was gone. Not destroyed, not conquered, not fallen to plague or war. Simply gone. Every human colony, every space station, every diplomatic outpost, abandoned, clean, methodical, silent. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 43 species gathered in their designated areas. The Tyrillian delegates' scales shifted from blue to deep purple with anxiety. The insectoid hive minds clicked and chittered in rapid consultation. Even the normally composed ethereal collective seemed agitated, their translucent forms flickering more rapidly than usual. At the center of the chamber sat the empty human delegation seats. Simple metal chairs that had hosted Earth's ambassadors for over 2 centuries. Now they looked like monuments to something lost. Order. Order in the chamber! High Chancellor Vexara called out, her tentacles striking the resonance crystal that served as a gavel. The Altarian leader's voice carried the weight of her 800 years. But today it trembled slightly. We are here to discuss the unprecedented situation regarding the human species, she continued. 3 days ago, all human-occupied territories went dark simultaneously. No distress signals, no communications, no explanation. Ambassador Kethvar stood, his voice steady despite his racing hearts. Honored Chancellor, the Zalani fleet has completed preliminary surveys of 12 human colonies. Each settlement shows signs of organized evacuation. No bodies, no damage, no signs of struggle. It's as if they simply packed up and left in perfect coordination. A low rumble of concerned voices filled the chamber. The Corvin representative, a massive creature whose rocky exterior gave him the appearance of a walking mountain, spoke in his deep, grinding voice. The mining operation on Kepler 442b was abandoned mid-extraction. Heavy equipment worth billions of credits left behind. The humans didn't even complete their final ore shipment. They just stopped working and disappeared. Dr. Xylee, the Aquarian delegate whose water-filled environmental suit gleamed under the chamber lights, added her observations. Our oceanographic research station on Europa shows similar patterns. The human scientists uploaded all their research data to shared servers, organized their equipment, and vanished. They left behind a simple message. Thank you for the collaboration. The work will continue. The ethereal collective's spokesperson materialized more solidly, their form taking on a silver hue that indicated deep concern. We attempted to trace their quantum communication networks. Every human vessel, every relay station, every deep space monitoring post has gone silent. The infrastructure remains intact, but there are no life signs anywhere. Chancellor Vexara's tentacles writhed with growing anxiety. Has anyone detected signs of forced evacuation? Weapon signatures? Battle damage? Nothing, replied General Thok of the militaristic hegemony, his scarred face bearing the marks of countless battles. My ships have scanned 47 human settlements. No plasma burns, no debris fields, no radiation signatures. If someone attacked them, they used technology beyond our understanding. But there are no attackers, no unknown ships, no foreign presence at all. The chamber fell into an uneasy silence. For 2 centuries, humanity had been a reliable, if sometimes unpredictable, member of the Galactic Council. They weren't the strongest species nor the most technologically advanced, but they possessed something unique: adaptability, creativity, and an almost supernatural ability to find solutions when others saw only problems. Ambassador Kethvar pulled up holographic displays showing human territories across the galaxy. Red markers indicated abandoned colonies, research stations, and diplomatic posts. The pattern was staggering in its completeness. The coordination required for this operation is unprecedented, he said, gesturing at the display. Humanity evacuated 247 settlements, 89 space stations, and 312 research facilities across 34 star systems simultaneously. This would require communication networks, logistics capabilities, and transportation resources that we didn't know they possessed. The hive mind spokesperson, a creature whose compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like tiny mirrors, clicked rapidly before speaking. Our collective memory recalls every interaction with human representatives over the past 50 years. They gave no indication of discontent, no hints of departure plans, no request for territorial modifications or policy changes. That's what troubles me most, Chancellor Vexara admitted. Ambassador Sarah Chen attended last month's trade negotiations. She seemed genuinely interested in the new shipping agreements for the Outer Rim territories. Ambassador Marcus Webb submitted a proposal for expanded scientific cooperation just 2 weeks ago. There were no signs of preparation for departure. Dr. Xylie's aquatic form shifted within her suit, creating gentle currents that betrayed her agitation. We had joint research projects spanning decades. The terraforming initiative on New Sahara was a collaboration between human engineers and Aquarian environmental specialists. They simply uploaded all their research data and left. 50 years of work, handed over without explanation. The implications began to sink in around the chamber. Humanity hadn't just left. They had carefully concluded their affairs, transferred ongoing projects, and departed with methodical precision. It spoke to planning that must have taken years, possibly decades. General Thok stood, his massive frame casting shadows across nearby delegates. The strategic implications are concerning. Human forces were positioned at key points throughout the galaxy. Their departure leaves gaps in our early warning networks, trade route protections, and border security arrangements. The economic impact will be severe, added the Ferengi Trade Consortium representative, his large ears twitching with distress. Human colonies were major consumers of exotic materials, rare earth elements, and manufactured goods from 17 species. The trade agreements they abandoned represent 12% of total galactic commerce. Chancellor Vexara looked around the chamber at the worried faces of her fellow delegates. Each species had developed relationships with humanity over the centuries, trade partnerships, research collaborations, cultural exchanges, military alliances, all suddenly severed without warning or explanation. The question remains, she said slowly. Why did they leave? What drove them to abandon everything they had built here? And perhaps most importantly, where did they go? The chamber fell silent again as the weight of those questions settled upon them. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, humanity had vanished, leaving behind only empty settlements and unanswered questions. The Galactic Council found itself facing a mystery that challenged everything they thought they knew about their former allies. Humanity departed in silence. Part 2 investigation teams spread across human territories like ripples in a cosmic pond, each discovering new pieces of an impossible puzzle. The Corvin Archaeological Unit, known for their methodical approach to analyzing ruins, found themselves studying settlements that had been thriving just days earlier. Commander Rocktar led the investigation on New Geneva, humanity's largest research colony. His team of specialists moved through the empty corridors of the massive research complex, their sensors recording every detail. The silence was deafening. No humming machinery, no distant voices. No signs of life. "Sir," called out Technician Velmos, a young Corvin whose stone-like features hadn't yet developed the deep weathering of age. The central laboratory shows signs of accelerated project completion. Multiple experiments that should have taken months were somehow finished in days. Commander Rocktar examined the laboratory equipment with growing bewilderment. Advanced medical research stations, quantum computing arrays, and genetic modification chambers, all clean, organized, and powered down according to proper protocols. But the speed of completion defied logic. "Look at this," Velmos continued, pointing to a series of data logs. The cancer research project had breakthrough results recorded just hours before evacuation. 50 years of work solved in a weekend. The quantum consciousness experiments show similar patterns. Decades of theoretical work suddenly producing practical applications. Meanwhile, on the ocean world of Aquatica Prime, Dr. Xylie led a joint investigation team through the abandoned human underwater research facility. The facility had been built in cooperation with her people, designed to study deep-sea adaptation technologies. Swimming through the empty corridors, her team discovered something extraordinary. The humans completed every research project, she reported through quantum communicators to the Council. Not just finished, perfected. The deep-sea pressure adaptation technology they were developing with us has been refined to the point where any species could survive in the deepest ocean trenches. They left detailed blueprints and working prototypes. Her team member, a Tyrillian whose scales had adapted to aquatic environments, pointed toward a sealed chamber. "Dr. Xylee, you need to see this. They built something that wasn't in the original project plans." Inside the chamber sat a device unlike anything they had seen before, sleek, efficient, and somehow beautiful in its simplicity. The accompanying documentation explained its purpose: a terraforming accelerator that could transform dead worlds into thriving ecosystems in decades instead of centuries. "They gifted us technology that we couldn't have developed on our own for generations," Dr. Xylee whispered, her aquatic form shimmering with amazement. Across the galaxy, similar discoveries emerged from every abandoned human facility. The Ethereal Collective's investigation team on the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri found completed artificial intelligence protocols that could enhance their consciousness-sharing abilities. The hive minds discovered advanced biotechnology that could improve their collective communication networks. Back on the council chamber, emergency sessions continued around the clock. Reports poured in from investigation teams, each more puzzling than the last. Ambassador Kethvar stood before a massive holographic display showing the distribution of abandoned human facilities. "The pattern suggests coordinated acceleration of all ongoing projects. Every research initiative, every technological development, every scientific collaboration was brought to completion before departure." "How is that possible?" asked General Thok, his rocky features creased with confusion. "Our military analysts estimate that completing these projects would require technological capabilities far beyond what we believed humans possessed." Chancellor Vexara's tentacles moved in slow, contemplative patterns. "Perhaps we underestimated them. 2 centuries of cooperation, and we may never have seen their true capabilities." The Ferengi representative consulted his datapad with obvious distress. The economic analysis reveals something equally disturbing. Human trade requests over the past 5 years show a pattern of stockpiling rare materials and energy sources, not for construction or manufacturing, but for something else entirely. "What kind of stockpiling?" Dr. Xylee asked, her form brightening with curiosity. "Exotic matter, quantum crystals, dark energy collectors, and massive amounts of raw materials that have no apparent use in any known human technology. They accumulated resources for projects that don't exist in their public scientific literature." The hive mind's representative clicked rapidly before speaking. "Our collective memory indicates that human behavior patterns changed subtly over the past decade. Individual humans became more efficient, more focused, more purposeful in their actions. We attributed this to natural cultural evolution." Commander Rokhtar's voice crackled through the communication system from New Geneva. "We've discovered something significant, hidden beneath the main research facility. There's a construction bay that doesn't appear on any architectural plans. The chamber is massive, large enough to build capital ships, but it's completely empty. Whatever they built here was removed recently." The revelation sent waves of concern through the chamber. If humanity had been secretly constructing large-scale projects while maintaining normal diplomatic relations, it suggested a level of planning and deception that challenged their understanding of human nature. "The Corvin fleet has detected unusual gravimetric readings in the outer system," General Thok reported. "Distortions consistent with massive energy discharges, but no debris or residual radiation. Something powerful was activated here recently." Dr. Xylee's team made another disturbing discovery. The underwater facility's power systems show evidence of energy draws far exceeding normal operation levels. For the past 6 months, they were consuming enough power to operate a small city, but there's no indication of what required such massive energy consumption. The Ethereal Collective's spokesperson manifested more solidly, their concern evident in the silver intensity of their form. "We have accessed human quantum communication logs from the past year. The communications show patterns suggesting coordination across vast distances, but the content is encrypted using methods we cannot decipher." Ambassador Kethvar studied the accumulating evidence with growing unease. They were preparing for departure long before they left. The question is no longer why they left, but how long they had been planning this exodus. Chancellor Vexara called for attention, her voice carrying the weight of realization. "Fellow delegates, we are facing a possibility that challenges our fundamental understanding of the human species. The evidence suggests they possess technological capabilities, organizational efficiency, and strategic planning abilities far beyond what they revealed during 2 centuries of cooperation. But why hide it? Asked the Tyrillian delegate, scales shifting to deep purple with anxiety. What purpose would such deception serve? Perhaps, suggested Dr. Zeely thoughtfully, they weren't hiding their capabilities from us. Perhaps they were hiding them from something else. The chamber fell silent as the implications of that statement settled upon the assembled delegates. If humanity had been concealing their true potential, and if they had departed with such careful preparation, it suggested they were either running from something terrible or preparing for something unimaginable. The investigation was revealing that humanity's departure was not an impulsive decision or the result of external pressure. It was the culmination of a long-term plan executed with precision that demonstrated technological and organizational capabilities that dwarfed anything the Council had suspected. Humanity departed in silence. Part 3, the breakthrough, came from an unexpected source. Deep in the archives of the Ethereal Collective, senior archivist Lumara discovered something that had been overlooked for decades. A collection of human philosophical texts and personal communications that painted a dramatically different picture of humanity's true nature. I have been studying human cultural artifacts for over a century, Lumara reported to the Emergency Council session, her translucent form shimmering with urgency. Their literature, their entertainment, their personal communications all contain recurring themes that we dismissed as fiction or primitive thinking. Chancellor Vexara leaned forward, her tentacles coiled with tension. What kind of themes? Preparation for the unknown. Stories about facing impossible odds. Cultural celebrations of individuals who sacrifice everything for future generations. Their entertainment is filled with scenarios where small groups overcome vastly superior forces through ingenuity and determination. Ambassador Kethavar frowned, his forearms moving in dismissive gestures. Entertainment fiction is hardly evidence of hidden capabilities. But it's not just fiction, Lumara continued, projecting holographic displays of human communications. Personal messages between human citizens show patterns of preparation that we never noticed. Families discussing contingency plans and preparation protocols as if they were normal parts of daily life. Dr. Zeely's aquatic form rippled with interest. During our joint research projects, human scientists would often mention alternative applications for our work. We assumed they meant commercial uses, but perhaps they had something else in mind. The revelation prompted a massive review of human communications and cultural materials. Teams of analysts across multiple species began examining decades of overlooked data with new understanding. Commander Rocktar's investigation team made another startling discovery on New Geneva. Hidden within the abandoned research facility's computer systems, they found references to something called Project Exodus. The files are heavily encrypted, but we've recovered fragments, he reported. References to preparation phases, resource accumulation targets, and departure windows. This evacuation wasn't spontaneous. It was the final phase of a plan that had been in development for decades. The hive mind's collective memory proved invaluable in reconstructing the timeline. Their perfect recall allowed them to identify subtle changes in human behavior patterns, going back 50 years. The human expansion pattern now makes sense, their spokesperson revealed. What we interpreted as random colonization was actually strategic positioning. They established settlements at key gravitational nexus points, resource-rich systems, and locations with unusual quantum field properties. General Thok consulted his military databases with growing concern. If they were positioning colonies strategically, then their supposed peaceful expansion was actually the deployment of a galactic infrastructure network. But for what purpose? The answer came from the Corvin archaeological team's analysis of abandoned mining operations. The minerals and materials humans had been extracting weren't just valuable, they were the specific components needed for technologies that no known species had yet developed. Quantum field generators, space-time manipulation matrices, consciousness transfer systems, Commander Rocktar listed. They weren't mining for trade or construction. They were gathering materials for technologies that exist only in theoretical physics papers. Dr. Zeily made the connection that sent chills through the council. The terraforming accelerator they left behind uses principles we don't understand. But the materials it's built from, they match the mining reports from human operations across 17 systems. They were building technology beyond our current understanding, she continued, her aquatic form darkening with realization. And they were doing it for 50 years while maintaining normal diplomatic relations with us. The ethereal collective's investigators uncovered even more disturbing evidence. Human scientists regularly accessed our consciousness research, hive mind collective intelligence studies, and even classified military defense networks. They claimed it was for academic purposes, but now we see they were gathering comprehensive intelligence about every species in the Council. Ambassador Kethavar felt his multiple hearts racing as the implications became clear. They knew everything about us. Our capabilities, our weaknesses, our technologies, our cultural patterns. We shared information freely with them for 2 centuries, never suspecting they were conducting a comprehensive intelligence operation. But why? Chancellor Vexara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What could drive a species to such elaborate long-term deception? The answer came from an unlikely source, a routine maintenance check on the communication relay systems. The Taurillian technicians discovered that human-maintained relay stations had been modified with equipment that didn't appear in any standard communication protocols. These modifications create a quantum communication network with capabilities far beyond standard galactic systems, the lead technician reported. The range and bandwidth could facilitate instantaneous communication across intergalactic distances. Intergalactic? General Thok's rocky features shifted with alarm. Why would they need communication capabilities beyond our galaxy? The investigation teams began finding similar modifications throughout human-controlled infrastructure. Navigation beacons, research stations, even diplomatic facilities had been equipped with technology that suggested preparation for operations far beyond the Milky Way galaxy. Dr. Xylie's team made perhaps the most significant discovery while examining the abandoned underwater research facility. We found data cores that contained star charts and navigation data for regions of space that don't exist in any Council database. Galaxies beyond our local cluster, with detailed information about potentially habitable systems. How could they have such detailed information about distant galaxies? Asked the Hive Mind's representative. Long-range probe missions, Commander Rokhtar realized. The scientific expeditions they launched over the past century weren't just exploring our galaxy. They were scouting other galaxies entirely. The scope of human preparation became staggering as more evidence emerged. Generation ships disguised as research vessels, resource stockpiles positioned at strategic locations, technology development programs hidden within legitimate scientific collaborations, and intelligence-gathering operations that spanned centuries. They weren't just planning to leave, Ambassador Kethavar said, his voice filled with awe and concern. They were planning to leave our galaxy entirely. Everything they did here, every relationship they built, every collaboration they participated in, it was all preparation for an exodus to another galaxy. Chancellor Vexara's tentacles writhed with a mixture of admiration and betrayal. 2 centuries of friendship and cooperation, and we never suspected we were hosting a species that was planning to abandon our galaxy entirely. The most disturbing question remained unanswered. Why would humanity invest centuries of effort into preparing for intergalactic exodus? What could drive a species to such extreme preparation for departure? The answer to that question would prove to be more terrifying than anyone in the Council could have imagined. As they were about to discover, humanity's departure wasn't just about leaving. It was about escaping something that was coming for them all. Humanity departed in silence. Part 4. The discovery that changed everything came from the most unlikely place, a routine archaeological survey of an ancient battlefield on the Outer Rim. The Corvin research team had been studying the remnants of a war fought millions of years before any current species had achieved spaceflight. What they found buried beneath layers of cosmic dust and debris would rewrite their understanding of galactic history. Commander Rokhtar's voice carried through the emergency communication channel with unprecedented urgency. Council, we have found evidence of previous galactic civilizations, advanced species that existed long before any of us developed space travel. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Council chamber. The prevailing belief had always been that their current alliance represented the first major galactic civilization. The idea that previous advanced species had existed, challenged fundamental assumptions about their place in cosmic history. What kind of evidence? Chancellor Vexara asked, her tentacles rigid with tension. Ruins of massive structures, technology fragments that surpass our current capabilities, and most importantly, records. Commander Rocktar's team transmitted data streams to the Council, star charts, cultural archives, and historical records that span millions of years. Dr. Xylie's aquatic form brightened with scientific excitement. If previous civilizations existed, what happened to them? Why are there no traces in our modern galactic surveys? The answer came as Commander Rocktar's team decoded more of the ancient records. According to these archives, there have been multiple galactic civilizations over the past 10 million years. Each one reached advanced stages of development, created vast interstellar networks, and then vanished completely. Vanished how? General Thok demanded, his military instincts immediately focused on potential threats. The records describe something they called the harvesting cycle. Every few million years, something emerges from the spaces between galaxies and systematically eliminates all advanced civilizations in our galaxy. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The implications of such a revelation challenged everything they thought they knew about their safety and permanence in the galaxy. Ambassador Kethvar's forearms trembled as he processed the information. Are you saying that our entire galactic civilization is living on borrowed time? That something periodically destroys all advanced life in the galaxy? The records are fragmentary but consistent across multiple civilization archives, Commander Rocktar confirmed. Each previous civilization detected signs of the approaching cycle and attempted to prepare defenses. None succeeded in stopping it. The ethereal collective's spokesperson materialized with unusual solidity, their form blazing with silver intensity. If this is true, then humanity's departure takes on an entirely different meaning. They weren't abandoning us. They were escaping something that threatens all of us. Dr. Xylie made the connection that sent ice through every delegate's consciousness. The human long-range probe missions, the intergalactic communication networks, the resource stockpiling, they weren't preparing for exploration. They were preparing for evacuation. But how could they know? Asked the Hive Mind's representative. These records were buried on ancient battlefields. How could humanity have discovered this information decades ago? The answer came from a careful analysis of human research activities over the past century. The ethereal collective's archives revealed that human archaeologists and xenohistorians had been conducting systematic surveys of ancient sites throughout the galaxy, sites that other species had dismissed as uninteresting or too damaged to yield useful information. They've been studying galactic history more thoroughly than any of us realized, Lumara reported. Human archaeological teams visited over 3,000 ancient sites in the past century. They were specifically looking for evidence of previous civilizations. Commander Rocktar's team made another disturbing discovery in the ancient ruins. We found references to early warning systems, monitoring networks designed to detect signs of the approaching harvesting cycle. Some of these systems appear to still be functional. The investigation revealed that humanity had not only discovered evidence of the harvesting cycle decades earlier, but had been actively monitoring the ancient warning systems. While other species focused on trade, diplomacy, and territorial expansion, humans had been quietly preparing for a threat that none of them knew existed. The timeline matches, Ambassador Kethvar realized with growing horror. Human behavior changes began 50 years ago, precisely when their archaeological research would have uncovered evidence of the cycle. General Thok consulted his strategic databases with new understanding. If the harvesting cycle is real and if humanity detected signs of its approach, then their departure wasn't abandonment, it was survival. The Corvin archaeological team uncovered more details about the ancient warning systems, networks of monitoring stations, quantum sensors, and gravitational wave detectors, positioned throughout the galaxy to watch for signs of the harvester's arrival. The warning systems are designed to detect massive objects moving through intergalactic space, Commander, Rocktar explained. According to the records, the harvesters announced their presence decades before arrival, giving civilizations time to prepare, or time to escape, Dr. Xylie added grimly. The most chilling discovery came when they accessed one of the ancient monitoring stations. The quantum sensors showed massive gravitational distortions in the space between galaxies, objects of incredible size moving toward the Milky Way at velocities that defied conventional physics. The harvesters are already approaching. Commander Rokhtar's voice carried the weight of galactic doom. Based on these readings, they will arrive within the next 50 years. The council chamber erupted in chaos as the full implications hit home. Humanity hadn't just discovered the threat. They had calculated its timeline and realized that their galaxy had decades, not centuries, before the arrival of forces that had destroyed every previous galactic civilization. Chancellor Vexara called for order, but her voice shook with the magnitude of the revelation. Are we certain that humanity's departure is connected to this threat? The answer came from Dr. Xylie's team, who had been analyzing the technology humanity left behind. The terraforming accelerators, the consciousness transfer systems, the quantum communication networks, they're all designed for rapid civilization relocation. Humanity didn't just escape, they created the tools for mass evacuation. They left us the means to save ourselves, the ethereal collective spokesperson realized. The technology they gifted us isn't just advanced. It's specifically designed for species survival in the face of galactic extinction. Ambassador Kethvar studied the approaching gravitational signatures with military precision. If humanity's calculations are correct, we have perhaps 40 to 50 years before the harvesters arrive. They used their time to escape to another galaxy. We have the same time to either prepare defenses or follow their example. The revelation transformed their understanding of humanity's actions completely. What had seemed like betrayal and abandonment was actually the ultimate act of friendship and cooperation. Humanity had discovered a threat that endangered all galactic life, prepared for their own survival, and left behind the tools and knowledge necessary for other species to save themselves. The question now, Chancellor Vexara said with grim determination, is whether we have the courage and wisdom to learn from humanity's example. Do we prepare to fight against forces that have destroyed civilizations for millions of years? Or do we prepare to follow them into exile among the stars? The Council faced a choice that would determine the survival of every species in the galaxy. Humanity had already made their decision and departed in silence, leaving their former allies to face the most critical decision in galactic history. Humanity departed in silence. Part 5. The weeks following the revelation transformed the Galactic Council from a diplomatic body into a desperate war council. Species that had spent centuries focused on trade agreements and territorial disputes now faced the ultimate question of survival. The ancient monitoring stations painted an increasingly grim picture of the approaching threat. Commander Rokhtar's archaeological team had activated more of the warning systems, revealing the true scope of what was coming. The gravitational signatures indicate hundreds of massive objects approaching from intergalactic space, he reported during the daily crisis briefings. Each one appears to be the size of a small moon, moving in perfect formation. Dr. Xylie coordinated the analysis of humanity's gifted technology with growing urgency. The terraforming accelerators can transform dead worlds into habitable environments in decades instead of centuries. The consciousness transfer systems could allow entire populations to survive in digital form during long journeys. It's a complete evacuation package, but not every species was ready to accept the reality of the situation. The militaristic hegemony, led by General Thok, advocated for defensive preparations rather than evacuation. We are not humanity, General Thok declared, his rocky features set with stubborn determination. We will not abandon our homes without a fight. The hegemony calls for the construction of massive defense networks, planetary shields, and weapon systems capable of stopping these harvesters. The Tyrillian delegation supported the military approach, their scales shifting to aggressive red patterns. Our species has never retreated from danger. We propose mobilizing every fleet, every weapon, every defensive capability in the galaxy. Ambassador Kethvar found himself torn between admiration for their courage and despair at their apparent inability to grasp the scale of the threat. Honored delegates, the ancient records show that previous civilizations possessed technology far beyond our current capabilities. They had weapons that could destroy stars, shields that could protect entire solar systems, and fleets that numbered in the millions. None of it was enough. The hive mind's collective intelligence proved invaluable in analyzing the historical data. Our calculations show that 12 previous galactic civilizations attempted military resistance. Each one was eliminated completely within a period of 50 to 100 years after the harvesters arrived. Chancellor Vexara struggled to maintain order as the council fractured into factions. Some species demanded immediate evacuation preparations, others insisted on military buildup, and a few smaller delegations advocated for attempting diplomatic contact with the approaching forces. The ethereal collective took a different approach entirely. "We propose attempting to understand the harvester's purpose," their spokesperson announced. "Perhaps they can be reasoned with. Or perhaps their goals can be satisfied without the destruction of our civilizations. The ancient records contain references to communication attempts," Lumara added, her translucent form flickering with scholarly excitement. "Several civilizations tried to establish dialogue with the harvesters. The attempts failed, but we might learn from their mistakes." Dr. Xylie's analysis of humanity's technology revealed another troubling aspect of their preparations. The quantum communication networks they left behind include protocols for maintaining contact across intergalactic distances. They expect to stay in communication with our galaxy even after their departure. "Why would they want to maintain contact if they're fleeing to safety?" asked the Ferengi representative, his large ears twitching with nervous energy. The answer came from Commander Rocktar's team, who had discovered additional human installations that had been overlooked in the initial surveys. Hidden monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, equipped with sensors designed to track the harvester's arrival and movements. Humanity isn't just watching from a safe distance, they're studying the threat. Ambassador Kethvar realized the implications immediately. They're gathering intelligence. Humanity didn't just escape, they're preparing for the possibility of returning to fight the harvesters once they understand them better. The revelation added new complexity to the Council's decision-making process. If humanity was planning a potential return with better knowledge and preparation, then the choice between evacuation and defense became less clear-cut. General Thok seized on this possibility. If humanity intends to study and potentially fight the harvesters, then our best strategy is to delay their advance long enough for human intelligence gathering to produce results. We buy time through defensive action, or, countered Dr. Xylie, we evacuate our most essential populations and maintain monitoring capabilities to support humanity's intelligence efforts while ensuring species survival. The debate intensified as more species chose sides. The warrior cultures gravitated toward defensive preparations, while the scientific and diplomatic species favored evacuation planning. The economic powerhouses focused on the logistics of either approach. The Corvin archaeological team made another crucial discovery in the ancient ruins. "We found records of a civilization that attempted a hybrid approach," Commander Rocktar reported. "They evacuated their core populations while maintaining strong defensive positions and monitoring networks." "What was the result?" Chancellor Vexara asked. "Partial success. The evacuated populations survived in distant regions of the galaxy. The defensive forces delayed the harvesters long enough to gather valuable intelligence about their methods and weaknesses. However, the defensive positions were ultimately overwhelmed. The hybrid approach began to gain support among the moderate factions. Evacuate essential populations, maintain strong defensive positions to buy time, and support intelligence gathering to potentially develop effective countermeasures." Dr. Xylie's team made a breakthrough in understanding humanity's technology that changed the equation entirely. "The consciousness transfer systems aren't just for evacuation," she announced. "They can create perfect digital copies of individuals while leaving the originals intact. Entire populations could exist in both physical and digital forms simultaneously. The implications were staggering. Species could evacuate their digital consciousness while maintaining physical populations for defense. Knowledge, culture, and civilization could be preserved even if the physical populations were lost. Humanity has given us the tools for true immortality," the ethereal collective spokesperson realized. "Digital consciousness that can survive any physical catastrophe while maintaining perfect continuity of experience and memory." Ambassador Kethvar studied the approaching gravitational signatures with new understanding. "If we can master humanity's technology, we could potentially outlast the harvesters entirely. Digital consciousness could survive for millions of years, waiting for the cycle to complete before returning to physical form." The Council began to see the scope of humanity's gift. Not just evacuation tools, but the potential for species-level immortality that could outlast any threat. The question was whether they could master the technology and implement it effectively before the harvesters arrived. Chancellor Vexara called for a comprehensive vote on the Council's response. The options had crystallized into three main approaches: full military resistance, complete evacuation, or a hybrid strategy combining defensive delay tactics with evacuation preparations. "We stand at the most critical moment in galactic history," she declared. "Our decision will determine not just our immediate survival, but the future of consciousness itself in this galaxy. We must choose wisely, and we must choose together." The vote would determine whether the galaxy would follow humanity's example of strategic retreat or forge a different path in the face of extinction. Either way, they now understood that humanity's silent departure had been the greatest gift in galactic history: the knowledge, tools, and time necessary to face an impossible threat. Humanity departed in silence. Part 6. 5 years had passed since humanity's departure, and the galaxy buzzed with unprecedented activity. The Council's decision to pursue a hybrid strategy had transformed every aspect of galactic civilization. Massive evacuation fleets prepared for departure, while equally impressive defensive networks took shape around strategic systems. Dr. Zeely floated in her specially designed command center aboard the newly constructed research vessel New Horizon, watching as the latest group of digital consciousness transfers completed successfully. The Aquarian scientist had become the lead coordinator for the evacuation technology, working tirelessly to master humanity's gifts. "Transfer complete," announced her Tyrillian assistant, whose scales had permanently shifted to the deep blue of intense concentration. "We now have digital backups of 15 million Corvan citizens safely stored in quantum storage matrices aboard the evacuation fleet." The process had become routine but no less miraculous. Individuals could have their complete consciousness digitized while remaining physically present to continue their lives. Entire populations existed simultaneously in both physical and digital forms, ensuring survival regardless of the outcome of the approaching crisis. Commander Rokhtar's voice crackled through the communication system from the galaxy's primary defensive zone. "Defense Grid 7 is operational. We now have planet-killing weapons positioned throughout the outer rim, shield generators protecting our core worlds, and early warning networks that can detect the harvester's arrival months in advance." The military preparations had exceeded even General Thok's ambitious goals. Every species had contributed their most advanced technologies to create defensive systems that surpassed anything in recorded galactic history. Weapons that could shatter moons, shields that could protect entire star systems, and coordination networks that allowed instantaneous response across thousands of light years. Ambassador Kethvar managed the diplomatic aspects of the crisis from the Council's new mobile headquarters. The traditional chamber had been abandoned in favor of a massive command ship that could coordinate both evacuation and defense efforts while remaining mobile enough to avoid the approaching threat. "Update from the Intergalactic Communication Array," he reported during the daily briefings. "We've received another transmission from humanity's advanced scouts. They've successfully established 3 separate colonies in the Andromeda Galaxy and report that the technology transfers are complete." The communication with humanity had proven invaluable. Their advanced scouts provided detailed information about suitable evacuation destinations, while their research teams continued studying the harvesters from safe distances. The partnership between humanity and the remaining galactic species had evolved into something stronger than anything they had achieved during centuries of peaceful coexistence. Chancellor Vexara studied the strategic displays that showed the current state of galactic preparations. Half the galaxy's population now existed in digital backup form, aboard evacuation fleets positioned throughout the intergalactic void. The remaining populations maintained the industrial and military infrastructure necessary for the defensive strategy. "Status report on Project Lighthouse," she requested. The Ethereal Collective's coordinator materialized with their characteristic silver intensity. "The Consciousness Beacon network is fully operational. If the physical populations are lost, the digital consciousnesses can maintain contact across intergalactic distances and coordinate return efforts once the threat passes." Project Lighthouse represented the most ambitious aspect of their preparations. a network of quantum beacons that could maintain communication and coordination between digital consciousnesses scattered across multiple galaxies. Even if the harvesters succeeded in destroying all physical life in the Milky Way, galactic civilization could continue to exist and plan for eventual return. The hive minds had adapted most successfully to the digital consciousness technology. Their collective intelligence translated perfectly to digital form, allowing them to exist as vast distributed networks that could process information at unprecedented speeds. Collective analysis confirms harvester arrival in approximately 18 months, their spokesperson reported. Final preparations should begin immediately. The timeline had been refined through careful monitoring of the ancient warning systems. 18 months to complete evacuation protocols, finalize defensive positions, and prepare for the greatest challenge in galactic history. Dr. Xiley received an urgent communication from one of humanity's monitoring stations. Priority message from the Deep Space Observation Post, she announced. Humanity's research teams have discovered something significant about the harvesters. The message carried coordinates for a secure communication channel. Within hours, the Council leadership was in direct contact with Ambassador Sarah Chen, humanity's lead researcher on the harvester phenomenon. Council friends. Ambassador Chen's familiar voice carried across intergalactic distances with crystal clarity. We've made a breakthrough in understanding the harvester's purpose and methods. The information changes everything about your defensive strategy. Chancellor Vexara leaned forward, her tentacles coiled with tension. What have you discovered? The harvesters aren't destroying civilizations out of malevolence or resource needs, Ambassador Chen explained. They're conducting a form of galactic rehabilitation. Every few million years, they reset the galaxy to prevent civilizations from reaching a development threshold that would threaten universal stability. The revelation sent shockwaves through the command center. The harvesters weren't conquerors or destroyers. They were cosmic gardeners, pruning galactic civilization to prevent catastrophic overgrowth. Our analysis shows that previous civilizations were approaching technologies that could destabilize space-time itself, Ambassador Chen continued. Weapons that could destroy galaxies. Experiments that could unravel the fundamental forces of reality. The harvesters intervened to prevent universal catastrophe. Ambassador Kethvar grasped the implications immediately. Then defensive resistance will only confirm their assessment that we pose a threat. Military preparation guarantees our destruction. Exactly, Ambassador Chen confirmed. But evacuation and consciousness preservation demonstrates wisdom and restraint. Civilizations that retreat voluntarily are allowed to return after the reset period concludes. The strategy that had seemed like cowardice was actually the path to survival and eventual return. Humanity's silent departure hadn't been abandonment. It had been the demonstration of cosmic wisdom that the harvesters required. How long is the reset period? Dr. Xiley asked. Approximately 10,000 years. Long enough for any dangerous technologies to decay and for returning civilizations to develop more responsibly. Chancellor Vexara made the decision that would save galactic civilization. All defensive preparations are to be suspended immediately. We proceed with full evacuation protocols. Every consciousness must be preserved and prepared for the long journey. The final 18 months became a massive coordination effort unlike anything in galactic history. Military resources were redirected to evacuation support. Defensive installations were abandoned in favor of consciousness transfer facilities. The galaxy's entire population was systematically converted to digital form and distributed across evacuation fleets. As the harvesters' arrival approached, the physical galaxy fell silent. Empty worlds orbited lifeless stars while vast digital consciousnesses journeyed toward distant galaxies, carrying the accumulated knowledge and culture of countless species. The last message from the monitoring networks confirmed the harvesters' arrival and their systematic sterilization of advanced infrastructure, but the consciousnesses that had once inhabited those worlds were already light years away, beginning the long journey toward reunion with humanity and eventual return. In the silence between galaxies, the greatest migration in cosmic history continued, trillions of digital souls carrying the flame of galactic civilization toward a future where they would return wiser, more careful, and eternally grateful for humanity's gift of foresight and preparation. The galaxy would be reborn in 10 millennia, and when it was, humanity and their allies would be ready to build something better than what they had left behind. The silence that had once seemed like abandonment had become the foundation of eternal survival.